How do? Right, you'll see here I'm at the pumpkin house, look. And the pumpkin house, you'll see that bit of a roof up there. Well, I did that last year, and I've come for the other side. And so I'm here to tell you, because you'll see very shortly a video of me loading the Land Rover at home. Now, I've only brought half of the stuff. Normally I'd shove a bunch more gear in, really, but I've only got half the stuff here because I'm only doing a little bit of a job. I've got oh, can you see, I've got point that chimney up before I start doing the other side of the roof. So basically that's what I'm up to. But I just want to give you a couple of minutes of me time, or not my time, but a couple of minutes of your time, talking to you about how it is to actually use the Land Rover. Well, as you can see from the videos that I'll probably put it somewhere, the Land Rover is outstanding to use in terms of loading and storage and all that kind of stuff. My issues aren't with the usability of the vehicle at all. It's an outstanding thing, and I was thinking today, actually, as I picked up some wood, only a little bit of timber, but as I picked it up I thought I really do like the functionality, and I was comparing it to how I would have gone on with the D5, and it wouldn't have been as good, and I'll explain, I suppose, why in a minute. But let me turn the camera around, we'll have a look at Finn, and I'll show you the story. So here we are. I'm going to have to stand a bit back here because you'll see I've got a couple of ladders on the roof here, and then I did mention to you, didn't I, that I picked up some timber. It's not very much, look, but it's just some cedar. Well, actually some cedar siding, but we're going to use it for another job. And then you can see on this side here I've got my ridge ladder, what they call a ridge ladder. Do you know it is a thing here in Canada? You don't have these. I can't buy this attachment for a regular ladder. I can get it sent from England because they don't have one. I wouldn't believe it, would you? Well, that's not true. They've got a similar sort of thing in America, and they wanted $600 for it, for one piece, and I bought both of them from England for 60 quid. So there you go. Anyway, that's that, shipped and delivered. Right, so you'll see in video how I fasten them on, and you can see here, look, if I just go in a bit, you can see how I've just threw underneath the cross beam there, and then over the top, and then it's just pulled, cinched together, and the usability of this roof rack is outstanding. I mean, you can't, I've had the front runner racks, and I've had other racks, and this, I have to say, Land Rover's it's a king. Can't really beat it. This what my daughter calls a lunchbox on the sign, but is actually a pannier. This affair is fantastic. I use it all the time to store my ratchets and straps and things. This sort of tool being on the side, one of the benefits of this is that you don't have to have your back of the Land Rover empty in order to access the stuff that you need to put things on the roof. So you'll see when I start loading the roof rack, you'll see that I reach in and out of here, and then I need another strap, and so I come back in here. But if the back of the Land Rover is loaded, that's not actually as easy as it seems, because if you've got all this stuff in the back, and then let's say you've got a little tin full of ammunition tin full of ratchet straps, well, now imagine try and get that out to put all your straps off the roof back in here. If you weren't taking that out, it's not going to happen. And I was thinking about the D5. Now, the way to do this in the D5 is to take out the third row of seats, then you end up with underfloor storage like you have in the Defender. Now, in the Discovery, of course, what you can then do is you can drop the seats, drop them forward, and you can access go that way. You could access underneath from in here, and you'd put your ammunition box and stuff in here, but it's not quite as handy. I mean, it'd do, wouldn't it? But it's not quite as handy as it is having it on the side where you can just pop round and get it. Now, this ladder is superb. They make a similar kind of roof rack, what they call the Expedition roof rack, for the D5, of course, and it's very similar in design. What you don't get with the D5 is the ladder. And I went up to strap that wood down, and you'll see in the video that comes up later, I were up and down this bit of a ladder here because I was sat on the top trying to strap the things. Now, it is possible to stand on this little footstep here. You could stand on that if you wanted to, and then you could throw you know, you could throw the straps over the top if you wanted to. And on my Range Rover, I used to stand on the spokes, and on the Discovery, it's very easy to stand in that passenger side and then reach over, because it's a little lower somehow. So it is possible to do it, but the difficulty is that then you can't really get in it to tie the straps off, if you see what I mean. So when you watch me load these ladders up, you'll see I'm stood on the top, and I sort of pull on the straps, and then I tie them off, and it's doable, but it'd be harder without actually being on the rack itself. And that's a bit tricky if you don't have a ladder, and the Discovery don't have a ladder, and there's no way of sort of putting one on. I mean, I know Pride Rhino, whoever it is that do that, I know they do that sort of a thing, but they make a modified sort of ladder thing that you can hang on the rack, but that goes with their Proud Rhino roof rack, and I don't know that it'd fit on the OEM, and I'm not. It's been my experience, I have to say, as much as I sort of give Land Rover a bit of jip, their OEM stuff is very, very good, and this roof rack is an example of how much better this is than the front runner. Anyway, going back to the back here, so here's the thing with the load at the back. You'll notice I've strapped, and you'll see this in the video, I strapped the compressor down, because it does loll over. Anything that you move up does end up being quite highly suspended, and you have to strap these things up because you need the space. You can't lie stuff down. Like I mentioned before, the space in the Defender's vertical, not horizontal, and that's a bit of a problem for stuff like this bag and these pouches, and if you had backpacks or whatever, because stuff doesn't like to stack up, and if it does stack up, it doesn't stay stacked up very often. So this compressor here I have to pour up, and then you have to strap it in, because of course it's got a lot of, as you go around the corner, it waddles about everywhere. So that is one of the downsides. Now, it's not a very big compressor, but you can see it does take up a lot of space in the back, and there's no room for a dog now. Now, in the Range Rover, I would have been able to lie that compressor down and put all these things together and put the dog in, and there would have still been room. But because there's not a lot of depth here, you can see, if I go that way, you can see we're right up here against the seats, and then the compressor's actually squishing them a bit at the back there, you can see, but there's not a lot you can do about that. Because you don't have a lot of depth, this is where you're at, basically. You're sort of stuck a bit. And now you've got the other issue, which is this sort of, I don't know what you call it, sort of like a post here. This back post comes out, and you can't, like in the Discovery or in the Range Rover, it is very difficult to get a pallet in here. I think Simon did a video on trying to squeeze a pallet in, and you can't really. I think somebody did say you could squeeze a Euro pallet in sideways on, as long as you were careful, but I don't know. And this little bit of a, whatever this is, a guide or a switch or I don't know what it is. It's only plastic, isn't it? It don't look like it's up to much. But that thing there, I'd be scared of banging that off with a pallet if you set about it with the forklift truck. But otherwise, I mean, it's quite rugged. Nice rubber mats. These bits of plastic here, they're easily marked and scratched if you shove stuff in. They're not the best, and you can see you also get mud and water and all sorts of nonsense in. And when you start jamming things up against the ceiling, of course it's white, isn't it? Which isn't the best colour, is it, for a Land Rover when you're shoving tools and stuff in it. So that gets a bit dirty, and you get marks in it already. Look, can you see? Oh, that's me leaning on me fob. Of course, it does have these tie down straps, which are very useful. There's 4 of them, 2 at the front, 2 at the back, and you can spec a rail if you so wanted a rail, and that's useful for strapping things down, so that's quite handy. So the back's not too bad, and of course, if you do fold the seats down, if you want anything very big in there, you can fold the seats down quite simply. I mean, they do move. Land Rover always been chastised for their lack of sort of ease and simplicity, but the Defender is quite basic. You just pull on that thing and the seat falls forward, basically, and this bottom seat here, like the old Range Rovers, that flips forwards. There's a bit of a shove your hand down the side there, and that's me drone, look, charging up. It's better just put that there before we lose all things altogether. So that's that. Lots of rubber mats in here. That's very good, and you can see if I just if I do this right, you can see that it's got a sort of an hard floor all the way, look, and you can basically wash it out, which is very good. So that's handy, and that's very good too. This sort of weird neoprene stuff does get marked quite easily. I don't know if you can see. I don't even know what that is. But the application of water and just a bit of soap and washing up liquid does bring it up quite nice. A lot of folk have complained about the seats. This a bit of cloth here that they said marks up very badly, and I mean, I've got 18,000 miles on mine now, and I don't know that I would say it's marked up very badly. It's got a couple of little spots on it, but I mean, it's not terrible, is it really? And there's no roushing. It needs a bit of a clean up, but I don't know that I'm upset with it. My issues, as I've said before, with this vehicle are nothing to do with the actual capacities of the usability, if you see what I mean. I think this is what I bought this tool for, and it's perfect at doing what it does, in my humble opinion. The downsides are basically the engine and the armrest and the lack of flappy paddles. To be honest, there's a couple of other niggly little bits, like in Canada you can't buy this. They have a skirt thing, don't they, that goes on this bit of a back thing here, and in Canada you can't get that for some reason or other. It doesn't come as part of the kit. It's an optional extra, I suppose, or whatever. And so I've had to put this grip strip on here. You see, I've put that on myself. And there's little things like this. You see, I've not had it very long, but can you see the metal strips coming all the way through here? And I don't know why. It's torn, and it shouldn't have done. I mean, it's had no use. I haven't caught it or anything. I just keep shutting the back door on it. But as you can see, it don't fit right. It doesn't fit right at all. And it's well, you can see what's up with it, can't you? Here's the end, look, where it's torn there, and it's only done 6 months. So mind you, Land Rovers have never had cracking door strips, have they? We've had this problem since Adam were about lad. So basically, those are the sorts of things that I would say would be problematic. This back door is all right for some stuff, but it's just not quite deep enough to put anything in there that's substantial or useful. You could perhaps fold up a couple of ratchet straps, but not the Land Rover ratchet straps. So Land Rover have sent, they include, when you buy it over here, they include this lovely little ratchet strap that you can see in front of you. And what I'm going to tell you about this now, you might find a bit funny, but they don't work. Basically, this one is packed up. I've only used it twice. I'm going to take it in when I go up and say I want to freshen, but I've only used it twice, and it's just made out of cheese. I've only got ratchet a little bit, and it bent, and that was the end of that. The Land Rover's usability is outstanding. I don't think there's a better vehicle for the job in the Land Rover fleet. I mean, there's a reason I bought it. And I bought it because I wanted this functionality. I wanted to be able to. Here's another thing that bothers me about the D5 as a tool, he says. I've loaded up the ladders, as you can see here, on the roof rack, and I'll need them for this roof. I've mentioned this, I did this last year, and then the weather beat us, so I didn't get the rest of it done because we had a sort of an early snowfall and a very damp and rainy back end, and then it was just a bit rubbish. But now imagine you're on a job and you've got these ladders on the roof rack, which you may or may not need straight away, or maybe you've got something like this bit of dod of wood here that you don't need directly, so you have to open the back door and take your tools out. Well, with the D5, what you have is a tailgate, and you pop the tailgate, but the tailgate has this big fin on the top, and I'll show you a photograph of that. But as the tailgate comes open, this big fin where my knuckle would be would reach up a lot like that, and then it jams into the piece of wood or into your ladders or whatever. And so the reality is that you can't open your back door if you've got a loaded roof rack on the D5. And it's little things like that that make my life hard, because that would mean that I'd have to take the ladders off whether I wanted to or not. And then I'd have to do that before I took anything out the back, or before I put anything in the back. Now you'll notice when I do the loading of this, I actually put the ladders on first and then load the back. Well, that wouldn't be possible with the D5. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's not a major drama, but it is a bit of a problem in terms of using it as a workhorse. But as you can see, everything that I need in this Defender is exactly what I bought it for. You know, I mean, the usability of it, the functionality of it, and the you know, the ladders and the stuff. I mean, I don't really care about the big 400 engine. If you want go fast, go buy a Range Rover Sport. I don't know why you'd want. I cannot understand why you'd want a P400 in a Defender. It's a Defender. It wants a bloody great diesel in it. It doesn't want a bloody race car in it. It's not a race car. It's a workhorse. But I mean, if you want it, fine. But the drama we've got, of course, is we don't have a choice. We have to have this P400 or the P300, and the P300 is a lot better. I was on Facebook today, and we were talking about the P300 versus the P400, and the P400 seems to have some issues with cruise control. When you're actually when it's on cruise control, you go around a curve or a corner, the cruise control cuts the speed of the engine, and then you drop it and you lose a lot of speed, and then it drops a gear to catch back up, and of course you're racing along like a lunatic for about 4 or 5 miles an hour, and it drops a gear just to do that. Doesn't happen in the diesel, so there's something, and I'm told it doesn't happen in the P300 either. So there's something very different about the way the petrols are programmed that makes them not as smooth or as comfortable, and that's clear from watching anybody off-roading. The petrols are not a good match. They need to do some JLR need to do some mapping somewhere along the line. So there you go. That's pretty much all I've got to tell you, to be honest, about the usability of the thing. And you can see that I do use it, and I do throw in, this is actually a small load, I throw in all manner of junk in the thing. And it does have hard life, so as you know, I have been thinking about moving to the Discovery, and when I look at how I used the Land Rover, I sometimes wonder whether that would be a wise move, because you can't, like, this sort of stuff, this kind of loading can't really be done with the Discovery. It just doesn't work quite so well, if you see what I mean. Now I've put this at normal speed because the securing of stuff to the roof rack is quite an important sort of skill, and I wanted just to chat to you about how I've done it, so that people that are curious can find out, I suppose. So you can see what I've done here is that I've put the cam strap. This is just a regular cam strap surrounding and underneath the cross rails, and I've taken the long end and I'm wrapping it under the cross rail on the far side. And what I do is I sort of find the middle with where the cam sits, and then I poke the sort of loose end into the cam. There's no particular merit of having it to one side of the middle or wherever, but I like it in the middle, so it's easy to pull everything together and you get an even purchase on both sides. So I give it a good tug there, and then with the loose end, what I do is I tuck that again right under the cross rail and feed it under another couple of cross rails here towards the back, and I kind of just then pull it up through one cross rail and just cross over the side rail of the ladder, and then sort of under the cross rail again, and that holds the two centre side rails, or two centre ladder side rails sort of down again really, and pulls it onto the rubber. I haven't really mentioned this, but you can see that on the roof rack cross rails there's these little black rubber sort of strips, and that's just to provide a bit more traction on whatever you've got there. It is worth mentioning that, and you saw when I loaded the ladders, that the actual black frame is slidey and quite rugged and sort of protected, so I slide the things on there so it's easy to move them about, and then tugging the straps down sort of forces the ladders or pulls the ladders onto the rubber, and a combination of the rubber and the strap holds it all in place. Now I have a bit of a dog bed here that you can see that Jip normally lies on, and so I take that out while I'm loading something else, because it just gets sort of roused up and sort of messed up really if you're trying to roll things in. Now the compressor is quite heavy. It's not terribly big, but it is quite heavy and it takes a bit of ranging around, but you can see I've shoved it right into the corner and shoved it vertically, and that's because with the Defender it's very important to load up rather than across, if that makes sense. Now I'm not actually loading a full load into the back here. Normally I carry a bunch more boxes and a lot more gear really, and so I've loaded it vertically to sort of save space. Now you'll see me fighting here to get the cam strap through the two little load eyes on the side, but it's important because things that are vertical are quite top heavy at times and they can roll about a bit, so I don't so much bother with the big toolboxes because they sort of hold themselves down, but the taller things, or the things that you mount upright, certainly need sort of strapping down. Now when I mount these boxes, I often mount them vertically upright to keep more space, and when I do that I also strap them down as well to stop them rolling over or falling over. Now it is recommended that you lock the ladder and the pannier closed by Land Rover, and that's certainly the case with the pannier, and that has bounced open, but I have driven 18,000 miles with that ladder and I've not locked it once yet, nor has it bounced open, but of course the choice is yours whether you lock it or don't. Anyway, that I suppose is pretty much all I've got to tell you. You'll see in a video very shortly, which I'll probably, or actually by now you'll have seen the video because I'll put it in the middle. Marvels of editing. I'll put it in the middle, so you'll have seen me load the thing, and I'll probably be rabbiting over the top of that, just to tell you how I will go about doing things and what I get up to and all that kind of stuff. So basically this is the end of the video, and that's about all I've got time for, I suppose, which is usually the case, isn't it? So it's good night from me, and it's good night from Finn. Thank you very much. See you next week. Cheerio.